Spider-Man 3, probably one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Kind of pioneered a lot of great superhero stuff and a lot of great Spider-Man stuff. Probably one of the greatest superheroes in cinema. Yeah, in cinema. And mainly because of Tobey Maguire's great acting, Sam Raimi's fantastic directing, the overall story is really, really great. It's told really great. There's so many great things to get into this movie. So let's start off with the best things about this movie. And yeah, most of this movie is fucking great. There's not one bad scene, there's not one bad moment. It never drags, it never stops to tell a really bad joke. It's not forcing itself to be campy. It's perfectly well paced, perfectly well executed, and tediously crafted. Sam Raimi puts in so much personality, style. This movie wants to take a little bit of a turn, of an angle. It wants to make a different story and not like some like random, oh, Spider-Man goes somewhere and has to fight villains and he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. Or telling the same shit again. It's more complex than that, and the story is way more fleshed out. Just a better movie overall than the first Spider-Man. Better VFX, better storytelling, the narrative is better, the cheesiness is played right. The villain is also great. No one can beat Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. That's just unmeasurable. He made that movie. And although I still really love that movie to heart, that movie does have a lot of cheesiness, and tonally it's just a tad bit inconsistent. It's more of a little bit of a spectacle, I guess, just to see Spider-Man. You know, he's already Spider-Man. Who gave him the suit? Who knows? Who cares? Themes that this movie tries to tackle are much more just like grounded and realistic. Honestly, it's so great. He has to face with being a big teenager, big grown-up. He's always late to class, he's always late to work, he's always late to MJ, he's always not taking pictures of Spider-Man. And I think all those internal conflicts really measure out. The start of this movie, he gets fired.
You're fired. Go.
Please, I need this job.
You're fired.
But give me another chance.
It's just him basically being a loser throughout most of this. And most of the conflicts are mainly with his personal life. The villain is more attached to his personal life as opposed to like what Peter wants to be and has to look up to. Oh, I'm fucking tired. To Alfred Molina's character. And for him to turn bad, which yes was very quick. He kind of turns into the bad guy. And he's all of a sudden induced with all this ego from the bad evil arms. It isn't really as fleshed out as a character. I still prefer him way better than Electro, which just feels like
everyone in the city is gonna know how it feels to live in my world. A world without power. A world without mercy. A world without Spider-Man.
It strikes the perfect balance of cheesiness, quips, all that Spider-Man quips. Whenever it's trying to be emotional, like really emotional, it works so well. There was one scene I can point to when Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is revealing the truth about Uncle Ben's death to Aunt May. That scene really has a big impact, mainly because of the acting and because it all built up to it. He wants to change, he wants to kind of leave behind Spider-Man and wants to do the right thing. And even though he can't always save people from burning buildings, he's always trying. And I think taking down that mantle, which we'll get into later, really emphasizes that Peter is just a normal, everyday person who happens to be Spider-Man. That's interesting, because first of all, you get more into his life, how this is personally affecting him. The exciting stuff, you know, obviously is going to be Spider-Man, but Peter Parker as a character is way more interesting because he has to be this really beloved hero and all of that, and the city loves him and everything. Even though he's always getting constantly attacked by J. Jonah Jameson, oh my god, he's just so great in this movie. He has the best lines.
He was a thief! A criminal! He stole my suit! He's a menace to the entire city! I want that wall-crawling arachnid prosecuted! I want him strung up by his web! I want Spider-Man!
I don't even think he has much to do with the movie. He's mainly just Peter's photographer. And that's it, but he's a great character in this. MJ and Harry Osborn, they're really good characters. Not much could be said about James Franco. His acting still leaves a lot to be desired. They used him way more properly in this movie than in the last movie, where he was just like, I don't know. He came off really corny. So is MJ too. MJ, she's used way. She's following up with her careers. After the first one, she kind of decides to just like go on about her life and leaving Peter Parker behind. And that's character, because she is growing. Harry's dealing with the mourning of his dad and trying to bank on Dr. Octopus's lab experiment, failing, blaming it more on Peter, giving him an arc. MJ, you know, having a boyfriend, she's getting engaged. Peter, isolated from most of this because he's too busy fighting crime. And the crime and all this stuff, it's exciting and it's great, but at the same time, you can take all this action shit away from the movie and it can just be its own thing. And that's the great part. You take the action from the movie. And it's not mainly an action movie, it's mainly a drama action movie. But the action does work great in this movie. And I'll get into the action too. Even the action is better. Better than most action today. Because first of all, they're not just fighting. It's mainly a scene where things happen, things escalate. This goes to this, and Peter has to do this. It's that type of action where it's more engaging to watch and see how the characters fight and everything, instead of just CGI things and have to work together. Obviously, people are gonna point out train scene, bank scene, and that's it. The end battle in this movie isn't that big of a battle. It's the confrontation, but it's not the big point. Big point is when Peter gets his powers back and fights Doc Ock on the clock tower, which is the greatest scene in the entire film, which leads up to the best scene in the entire film. That's action scene, which leads to the best Spider-Man scene, Peter saving people, and then it kind of slows down, and then there's a big reveal. It just keeps ramping it up without feeling too overwhelming, and everything has its time to pay off. Peter losing his powers towards midway through the film from all these problems and everything works in perfectly, because it sets up that he has to get his shit together. And that's a big point of the film, balancing all of this. Many people complain about how the whole spider bite, Spidey power loss is a kind of a problem. Why? Because it doesn't make sense, because it feels like it needs to happen for the plot, for Peter to get his life. But it doesn't need to be explained. It's almost a self-explanatory thing within the movie. It's symbolic to the themes and everything. And we don't need to know, did Peter get poisoned and now his powers are gone and all of a sudden, his life gets back together. It doesn't matter. It's clearly explained through everything. All the shit that happens explains why his powers are gone. And even has a doctor scene in the movie, which clearly explains to him, maybe you're just supposed to be Peter Parker and not fighting crime and all of that, which leads him to give it up, kind of give up his mantle and everything. And once it becomes boring, lame, loser, cornball, nerd, glasses Peter Parker, he's living the life that he wants, but he can't have everything. MJ's still getting engaged. Harry's still doesn't like Peter, and he can't really have it all. Even when he's saving that kid from the burning building, he still can't have it. And there's a very, very sweet moment in the movie where I guess Mr. Dickovich's daughter visits Peter, and she kind of just gives him cake, which is very nice. So I think That is a very, very good scene. I think most of these scenes are very great. Lead to the next scene. Next scene. Next scene. Conflict. They add stakes. They pay off. Here Osborn throughout the whole movie is trying to find out who he is and working with Doc Ock to get Peter Parker or Spider-Man. What? Filming a video.